Hey everybody, my name is Morgan, and welcome back to another bonus episode of Pillow Talks with Pillow Friends, where my wife and I discuss her reactions to The Eye of the World. This time, we're talking about chapters 28 through 31 of The Eye of the World, so Footprints in Air, which is a Nynaeve point of view, and then two Perrin POVs, and finishing up with the first Rand point of view, Play for Your Supper, in that stretch of POVs where Rand and Mat are on the road together. Please enjoy. It's interesting to hear what my wife has to say. Once again, she's hella smart, and she's really, really funny. I enjoy talking with her about the Wheel of Time, and I hope you enjoy this bonus content. First things first, here she is, talking about Nynaeve, as she, Moiraine, and Lon are heading into Whitebridge.
Nynaeve is learning some important things on this little journey. And she's, like, incredibly frustrated with Moiraine talking to her like she's a girl.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, because you're acting like a fucking child. And it's sort of like she hates that she's reacting so intensely to her emotions, but she, like, can't seem to help herself from it. And Maureen's like, part of the training you'll receive in Tar Valon wisdom will teach you to control your temper. And I'm just like, you can do nothing with the one power when emotion rules your mind. And she is, like, so overruled by her fucking bad temper. Also, I think she's got the hots for Lon.
Oh?
Yeah. Which is interesting and really weird. I don't know if she has contempt for, like, any women who are in power positions because she feels like a sense of, like, competitiveness with them, or if she specifically doesn't like Moiraine because of what she is, and also because she's there with Lon. And yeah, she almost seems jealous. She's like, if only there was some way to get rid of the woman, Lon would be better by himself. A warder should be able to handle what was needed. She told herself hastily, feeling a sudden flush. No other reason, but one meant the other. She wants to get Lon alone. She wants to see what he can do with that fucking sword. Yeah, I think that she has the hots for him and hates that she has the hots for him. That's adorable. But yeah, her fucking, like, over-emotionalness and her tendency to just, like, be angry is really fucking wearing, because it reminds me of my goddamn stepmom.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just sort of like, that's how Kat was. She was just, like, so ruled by her feelings that she was absolutely fucking impervious to all sense and reason and logic, and it's just, like, exhausting. So, like, if Nynaeve can figure out how to not let emotions rule her goddamn self, she could be fucking formidable, because she's really strong-willed and she's fucking smart. She just needs to be emotionally intelligent too, but she's got the emotional intelligence of a fucking raging hormonal 13-year-old, and it's fucking irritating. I don't really care for reading through her eyes because she's so fucking prickly and in absolute loathing of her traveling companions, because she feels constantly attacked. She's always being defensive. She feels like she's being laughed at, and I mean, some of her defensiveness is learned defensiveness from actually being laughed at from people that she lived with, and being underestimated, being undermined, being unnecessarily questioned and stuff like that. So it makes sense that she would be a little defensive, but she's far too defensive. She sees attacks and slights where there are none, and it's exhausting.
Yeah, being in the head of her, because right now she feels so powerless and frustrated in this position, and it's just kind of like powerless, frustrated Nynaeve because she doesn't know how to process her shit is so difficult to, like...
I want her to drown in the Arnell. Right now.
Yeah, I know.
Like, isn't there a fucking silencing charm or something that Moiraine can put on her?
I think Moiraine identifies with her.
Possibly that's where all the patience is coming from. I'm so glad they're getting to ride on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really hoping that somebody would get on it I don't know why, it's just like satisfying.
Being able to get to see it up close is cool.
It's fucking badass, and like the sort of delicate spidery way they keep talking about it is like, I can't quite imagine it.
Uh-huh.
But Rand said something about it being like glass, so where I was imagining sort of like a thick marble bridge, like marble when it's sculpted is usually in a sort of heavy, substantial sort of way, but now I'm picturing more like a milk white like sheet of glass, like stretched over the river, and it's just sort of like, that's a whole different vibe. That's some like sci-fi shit, and it's very interesting.
Yeah.
That's an excellent description. If lace were made of glass. You know what it makes me think of a little bit? You've seen the Never-Ending Story, right?
Yes.
You know the scene where the goblin, like, is sort of spying from the window on the princess while she's, like, talking to her court, probably? I think it's sort of near the beginning of the movie, and there's the fucking ivory towers. I don't know if you remember the ivory tower at all.
It's been so long since I've seen it.
I watched it a lot when I was a kid. But there's this ivory tower that is, like, her castle, basically. And whatever it's made out of, I don't know how they did it, but it looks like creamy white wax, and it was really beautiful. And like when the goblin was like clinging to the outside of it, it sort of looked like he was gonna just gouge the fucking like edge of this window, but of course he didn't. And I don't know what it was made out of for filming, but I remember just being kind of stunned by how like smooth and beautiful it looked. And that's kind of what this makes me think of, is that it's like a sort of delicate woven version of whatever that creamy white material was that the ivory towers were made out of. I'm struggling to visualize it. I have that problem with fantasy novels. Is like this makes me sound fucking boring, but I'm not particularly imaginative about things that are being described by other people. Like I can imagine all kinds of stuff on my own, but having something described to me, it can be really difficult to visualize.
I struggle with that too.
And it's just like good, solid descriptions are really valuable to me. So having her talk about it looking like milky white lace that's glass is sort of like really helpful, because that's really evocative. So I'm having trouble finding something, and I feel a little hesitant anyway. So either townspeople from Whitebridge or the captain or someone else on the Spray mentioned Logain was supposed to be coming through either Whitebridge or Camelin, and I can't remember which fucking one it was he was supposed to be going.
You want me to tell you?
I thought it was Whitebridge.
It was Camelin.
It was Camelin? Yeah. Okay. He was up in Saldea, right?
No.
I thought that he was fighting in Saldea.
No, he was in Gildan.
Right. Why am I thinking Saldea? Is that where Tom said he was coming from originally, that he overwintered in Saldea?
No, Doman wintered in Saldea, and the Trollocs were chasing him.
Oh, right, and he thinks that they're after him. But he doesn't know why.
Right.
Fucking Nynaeve, like, when they were first riding into Whitebridge, she had, like, put up her hand to sort of, like, feel the air, or whatever, and then she was like, fuck the one power. And Moiraine walks into the fucking inn or whatever, the bar, I guess it was an inn and bar, and like feels the air too. I'm sure Nynaeve was feeling hella fucked up about that. I just thought that was funny because it's a very distinct sort of movement, and I appreciate it. Also, that they have a queen is sort of interesting.
Oh yeah?
Queen Morgase, or however you say her name.
Morgase.
I can't read her name without thinking, like, Mordeth and Moiraine. Her names are, like, a little bit similar, especially Mordeth. Mordeth and Morgase. So it's just sort of like, that's weird. So, Moiraine is saying that they're gonna look for Perrin because he's still got his coin and she can find him the most easily. And that, though she doesn't, or at least according to what she told Nynaeve, can't tell exactly who has their tokens still. Matt and Rand, she's, saying that they could have gone so far ahead by now that it's sort of the chances of finding them is possible, but far enough that it would be much easier just to look for Perrin. And she says that he's slightly to the north of them because he's coming down along towards Whitebridge from the RNL. But they leave Whitebridge, and it sounds like they leave by the same way. I mean, I could be wrong, but it sounds like they leave by the same way that Rand and Matt, which would be the gate on the other side of the Canelan Road.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's on this side of the RNL now.
Yeah.
I have to reference the map fucking all the time.
Yeah, that's okay. And that just kind of petered out there. It was nice to have someone who I know identifies with Nynaeve and actually really enjoys her character from the get-go, also have a lot of the same conclusions that I have about just the general frustrations with how she behaves early on in the series. So I appreciated feeling validated, as well as like increasing my understanding of Nynaeve at the same time. I've really enjoyed seeing how Abby sees Nynaeve. So now we're moving into Abby's discussion of Eyes Without Pity, and she doesn't discuss Children of Shadow very much, I think partly because, as she says later on, it was so incredibly stressful. But she is giving me commentary kind of as she's reading. It's not particularly obvious because I just kind of used the trim silence function, so you're not getting a lot of pauses between. But here she is talking about Perrin as or after he and Elias and Egwene have made it into the steading after fleeing the ravens.
But I had to reread it several times when Perrin was like looking at Egwene from across the little pool when they got into the steading, because like she was like overwhelmed with relief, and he was kind of like looking at her and really soberly, is how I described it, and I didn't understand why at first. I was just like, I literally had to reread it like 3 or 4 times, and then I was like, oh, it's because he was just imagining having to kill her to spare her the horror of dying by like being pecked to death, basically. And I was like, the fact that it's causing him like moral agony didn't even occur to me until I read it like through like 4 times, and then he stopped to have a conversation with Elias about it.
And Elias was like, yeah, duh, of course you thought about that because you're a decent fucking human now.
Yeah, he's like, I know which one I would fucking choose. I know which one I would choose. Like, who wouldn't? Who would rather get pecked to death than be like, well, the traveling people, really, but who cares about their silly fucking ideology? I understand, knowing, like, what you said about Robert Jordan having been in war, like, why that sort of thought would be attractive, because it's true that doing violence causes harm to the person doing the violence, if they have a conscience anyway. But it's just sort of like, there's a time and a place, and sometimes the burden of the harm of doing violence is kinder than letting somebody suffer without it. So it's like a mercy killing like that, like what he was considering, is far kinder than him sullying his soul or something with the harm of doing that violence to somebody he actually deeply cares about. Because the burden of not acting is more and worse, I would think.
Yeah, the fact that he thinks of it is proof of, like, tremendous compassion and pragmatism and selflessness.
Because he, like, the fact that he thought of basically taking her head off with an axe and not himself or Elias, it's just sort of like, it is a little bit sexist, but maybe it isn't. It could be more like,
she's who he cares about most.
Yeah, he hardly knows Elias. He loves her. And whatever kind of love it is, it's love. And yeah, the idea of seeing her suffer, or even being unhappy, which is why he checked himself when he was getting, like, irritable about her enjoying herself a little, because he's basically like, don't be a dick. Have fun dancing. Go have a good fucking time. Go relax. Do what you need to do. I'm going to keep my brooding to myself because that's my burden. And it's sort of like, that's a kind thing to do. And it's taking an emotional burden and not putting that on somebody else, where Rand would have probably projected and put it on her, because that's kind of the way that he, like, does things, it seems like. Like, he is taking responsibility for his own feelings and shit like that. And taking the burden of, considering killing Egwene out of love is just, That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a horrible thing to have to fucking consider, but he did consider it. But yeah, I feel like everybody's growing up moment happened at different times. So I know that you were saying that you feel like post-Shatter Logoth is really the big marker, but I think that at least my perception is different. Yeah, it was significant, but I don't think it was significant for everybody in quite the same way. Like, it wasn't a tipping point for every single person. Yeah, they had to strike out on their own and find their own way and do hard things that they've never done before. But I think that Perrin considering Mercy killing Egwene, I think that was his sort of moment of extreme, like a situation so difficult it challenges everything you think you know about yourself. And it's sort of like, I think that was his moment. Sort of like Matt. It seems like with Matt, it was more of a coming on sort of thing, like the wear and tear of being hunted. And eventually he just reached a tipping point where everything he thought he knew about himself and what other people thought about him and themselves was just deeply challenged. And
you've got a cluster of random Matt chapters coming up that have like some really good.
I'm excited to see how they interact with each other on the road alone together.
There's some
I like travel chapters in fantasy novels.
Me too.
They're usually very illuminating.
Yes, and I find them some of the most like heart-wrenching chapters.
In fact, that's one of the things that I have up until this point been slightly disappointed about reading The Wheel of Time, is that in other fantasy books there seems to be a lot more like almost like dead travel time, where there's not a lot going on. Like so far it's pretty much been like go with like action and things happening like right from the get, but I like the sort of quieter moments because you learn a lot. People learn about each other because it's sort of like you can't have good emotional growth or personal development if you don't have a moment to breathe and think about what's happened to you and what you're to like process and cope a little bit. So without that downtime, it's just so much trauma and no lessons, no learning, no discovery, because that's sort of like the one positive side of trauma, I guess, is, I mean, trauma's not really ever good, but it's part of being alive, and if you must have trauma, then there's things to take away from it, and you can't do that if you don't ever stop to think about it. So you can either just sit there and like brood in the pain of it, or decide to live despite it and be better, do better, smarter, whatever, like in the wake of it. That chapter, the Eyes Without Pity, that one was a very obviously like go sort of chapter. It was surprisingly sort of emotional for such an action-packed chapter, but that was mostly after had a moment of quiet, as it goes. Also, the idea of the steading is really fucking cool and weird, and I'm wondering if the steading is why Elias knows that his wolf shit doesn't have anything to do with the one power, because the one power isn't accessible in a steading, and or at least according to him it isn't accessible in a steading, and Egwene definitely seems to confirm that she feels like something is absolutely missing, because she can no longer feel the true source. But Perrin and Elias can still feel the wolves, so it's definitely like something else. It's something closer to what Elias said, it seems like. It's just nice little confirmation, since you can't really believe anybody.
Fucking unreliable narrator.
That and just the deep down suspicion of like...
You being you?
Of me being me and having been traumatized about fantasy by reading Game of Thrones. Like, I'll never read anything again, probably quite the same. Just because, like, everybody has an ulterior motive, or they're stupid, or they're unreliable. Because in reality, people have warped views of things that aren't necessarily accurate or true. And that's very realistic. The unreliable narrator idea is highly realistic. And I appreciate and am extremely annoyed by it at the same time. Because it gives me a little bit of anxiety, because I just like... Because I like knowing things. And there's not a lot of certainty in the world. Real or otherwise. I fucking hate it.
And now just leading into this third segment here where Abby talks about Play for Your Supper. First things, want to apologize about some of the audio issues here. I don't know why I'm having moments of heavy breathing into the microphone. I think I probably had put my phone on my chest and it was just a little bit too close to my mouth. Sorry about that, but it's more than made up for by the fact that we get into a long conversation about all of the headlands of Randland looking like various sex toys, and that more than makes up for it just with comedy gold. Please enjoy.
But yeah, I'm really, really into this right now, and I'm gonna keep being into it.
Yeah, like I was saying, a lot of people complain about these four...
Do you have that on?
Yeah. A lot of people complain about these 4 chapters with Rand and Matt on the road, and
they're boring or something?
I don't think so. I think they're amazing.
No, is that the complaint? Is that
yeah.
People think that they're boring?
Yeah, they're like, yeah, Rand and Matt are just on the road. And I'm just like,
There's just a lot happening.
Yeah, they're on the road and a fuck ton happens and they're fucking gut-wrenching because the feels.
Also, I came across a chapter that you were, like, talking about with Rand and Matt in a haystack.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. That was in Play for Your Supper. Where they're like, sleeping under a haystack is about as good as, like, sleeping under a roof. It keeps you almost totally dry.
Almost.
Sort of like, their perspective is sort of, like, very interesting and a little sad.
Well, so
like, the level of gratitude that Rand has is really impressive, and I kind of commend him for his positivity. But yeah, like, Matt is freaking me out a little bit with his deep suspicion. And, like, I get it, but he's literally being so suspicious that it's, like, detrimental to them. And I feel like, though he, you know, his traumatic experience or the wear and tear of being hunted, it finally really got to him, and he's very afraid. And he's, like, unnecessarily suspicious almost. Like it's going a bit, it's like reaching into the realm of, like, slightly insane, and he just seems, like, paranoid.
Mm-hmm.
Which is sort of understandable considering what they've been through, but it's driving Rand kind of nuts, and it's, like, putting them in danger. And I feel like despite his wising up to a lot of things, that that Matt is still struggling with being smart. Like, he's still a little dumb, and he's just suspicious dumb now, but he doesn't know how to wisely apply his suspicion.
Mm-hmm.
So he's just, like, paranoid because he doesn't know who to be suspicious of. He's just mistrusts everybody except for Rand.
Yeah, it's like he's gotten some survival skills, but not enough.
Well, it's almost like he's just overdoing it. It's not like a sensible amount of trust. Like, because he's overdoing the suspicion. And, I mean, he's traumatized, so it's sort of like, that makes sense. I feel like him and Rand are going to come out of this in a very interesting way, just because they're going to have trauma bonded on the road, hardcore. So they were already probably closer than any of the other 3. Or, like, I feel like Rand and Matt were closer than, say, Rand and Perrin, or Perrin and Matt. Obviously, there's some contention between Perrin and Matt. And this is just going to, like, solidify that connection, like, intensely. I do hope Matt gets a little smarter, because he's still struggling with the being smart thing.
Impulse controls, too, is really bad.
At least in Play for Your Supper, it's not bad. It really isn't that bad. It's just, like, he's just intensely suspicious, and it's putting them in danger. But I think it's adorable that Rand is being creeped on by this fucking girl.
Oh, fuck yeah.
And he's like, Perrin would know how to handle this. When just a couple chapters ago, Perrin was like, Rand would know how to talk to girls. And everybody's just like, we don't know what the fuck we're doing. So everybody just sucks at life, and they're trying their best and thinks everybody's better at it than them.
So that's pretty
They're
true.
so cute.
They are pretty cute. Yeah.
Cute, ignorant little boys.
They are very cute and ignorant little boys.
But yeah, I thought that was very clever, by the way. The fucking mom of that girl.
Oh, yeah.
She was just like, you have to leave early in the morning, right? She's just like, you know what? You played so good. You can have Elsa's room. She's gonna sleep with me tonight.
And Elsa's
so
like...
that little hoe can't sneak off and fucking climb up on your tall person dick. Like... I like tall boys. All the farm boys around here are short. And Rand's like, please leave me alone.
She's staring at him, chewing on the end of her pigtail the whole time. He's gonna pull on that tight shirt.
I know, he's like...
He's like, please quit eye-fucking me.
It's fucking adorable. I mean, like, it's kind of fucked up because she's totally creeping on him.
Uh-huh.
But, like, you gotta figure that, like, hot strangers are kind of hard to come by.
Mm-hmm.
Especially hot strangers, like, her age.
Mm-hmm. So
she's just, like, this tall, strapping, interesting-looking farm boy.
Mm-hmm.
You got to imagine that he's got some muscles going. He's been on the road. He's probably good lean from a whole bunch of, like, sheep herding and shit.
Oh, yeah.
So he's just, like, fucking stacked. And doesn't even know it. And she's just like, pan, after the weird little fucking backwater farm boy.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt just thinks it's fucking hilarious. Making fun of him for it.
But when I first read this and the mom was like, you know, yeah, they should try that at the end, I was like, oh my god, that's fucking brilliant.
I mean, it is brilliant.
Yeah.
It's so easy to melt into, like, nothing if you're just another stranger at an inn.
Yeah, I fucking love it. Yeah.
Well, I was feeling really good about this chapter until I got to the end of it. Because, like, things were, like, going pretty okay. Matt was in a slightly better mood, slightly less crazy and suspicious. He's, like, still having insane dreams, and they have to share a bed way more than they probably should. But it's just kind of tragic, because it's just, like, Rand began to think their problems were over until they reached Camelin. But then they came to Four Kings, and it's just like, and it's just like, can they just have a fucking break? Like, for the love of God, give these fuckers a break.
So, Abby, there are 14 more books.
Yeah, but you'd think that they couldn't take a constant, like, pounding. Like 14 books worth of just getting fucking hammered with shit seems like an awful lot for any human being to take.
I mean, yeah, I guess you get a breather now and then. You probably
do they ever have joy in their lives again?
Yeah, there's always humor and joy.
Because, like, I mean, they were doing okay for a minute at that farm, except that Rand was feeling deeply uncomfortable and sexually harassed. Mm-hmm. Matt thought it was funny, but he's also, like, deeply mentally ill at this point. And then, like, they were good for, like, a day, or a couple of days, and then everything is, like, going to shit again. And it's just, like, can they just have, like, a week off of life? Like, I would really like to give them a vacation that doesn't involve Myrtle. Like, can they have a fucking lovely, like, trip to a fucking beach where they're not being the victims of attempted murder or worse?
They'll get a beach trip.
I'm sure it's not good. Let's see, where is there a fucking beach in here? We can have a beach trip. If you go south of Ambador, which sounds real bad, go to Ilion. I'm guessing that you might do that for the Great Hunt of the Horn. I don't know how that's going to go. Probably not good, because everything seems to be just about not good. There's a lot of beaches in here. There's a lot of things in this world. But if they don't go to Ilion sometime in the second book, like, I don't even know what they're doing, so... There's lots of beaches there. Lovely beaches. That looks like
It looks like a ball sack.
Ilion looks like a ball sack.
He literally drew this map in like 10 minutes.
I can tell. I just see a giant landmass and little dicks poking off everywhere.
To be fair, you only see like part of a continent. Like the rest of the world is
over here.
And, you know, this is only part of one like continent landmass. There's more stuff.
Like out over here.
Yeah.
Or I guess like down here.
This is just like the known world. Fair
enough, but still. It's literally a lump of vaguely rectangular shape, and then, like, dicks.
Dicks.
G-spot dildo. Dick. Oh my god! It looks like one of those dual ones, like, that's the one that goes in your butt, and that's the G-spot one.
It totally does.
It so does.
So,
like, this is the top part and that's the bottom part. Oh my god, I've had one just like this.
So Mayanne is the part that goes in your butt.
The drowned lands. That's an unfortunate name. Yeah.
No, that's the perfect title for a podcast. Mayanne is the part that goes in your butt.
Whatever. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
I didn't draw the fucking thing. But yeah, that looks like one from Bad Dragon. That looks like a normal one. I don't know what the fuck that is. That's frightening. That's a ball sack. And that's the, like, DP one.
Just how many dicks can you find in land masses on the continent of Ranland?
A lot, apparently.
Lots of dicks.
That looks like a fish mouth. It does.
A little bit.
100%.
Okay, well, were you gonna say anything else, or do you want to keep reading?
Sorry, had to take a vacation from, like, all the garbage that they're dealing with.
So let me ask you one more thing then, if you don't have anything.
Just give me 1 second to, like, look through for a minute. I feel like their conflict, the fuck is it called? Their ability to resolve conflicts, I feel like, is really good with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. For 2, like, miserable, hungry, traumatized, and terrified, like, boys, they could literally tear each other apart, but instead, they're actually really good to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they have that little fight about the dagger,
Mm-hmm.
but then they fucking apologize and are immediately, like, over it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just, like, they have a beautiful relationship. I 100% understand why there's, like, a Kothor sort of, like, ship fandom. I can see it. They're cute together.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, fucking Matt is, like, eyeballing people so thoroughly that they're literally making them uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. So they think that they're the sketchy ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, this farmer's like, oh, by the way, I forgot our big, strong 4 fucking sons are gonna be here any minute. You better go. We just don't have room for you. Sorry. Peace out. Have some pickles and cheese.
It's like we were gonna put you up until you started making us feel like you were a creep.
Good job, Matt.
I've listened to too many episodes of Let's Not Meet.
For fucking real, though.
Like, crazy 2 Rivers farmer, let's not meet.
I would listen to that episode.
Fuck yeah.
But yeah, Matt's weirding me out a little bit. He's even making me uncomfortable. I can't even imagine how he's making the farmers feel, but it's just like...
So...
keep your crazy and your fucking ruby dagger to yourself.
How do you feel about Rand after this chapter?
Rand is in kind of an interesting spot. I feel like he's doing better than he was. Like, he's not having Matt's the one having nightmares right now. He's not having nightmares right now. He's feeling more positively than Matt. He's just like... I mean, he's having his moments, but he's really trying. He's trying to keep a positive outlook. Because he's saying that he's like... basically like, fuck, I'm never gonna see home again. He's like longing after home and like seeing this village that reminds him of home and just like pining. But he's just doing better mentally, it seems like. And yeah, I like him better than I did before. I like him better away from Egwene.
Yes.
Oh, with Egwene, I want to just drown him literally all the time. But away from Egwene, like, he's fine. And... well, sort of fine. He was kind of irritating, like, for a while. But he's fine right now. And he seems to be doing much better than, honestly, a lot of the players in this fucking game right now.
I really like where he is right here, where he's just kind of like...
yeah, I'm sure that won't last.
Rolling with it and just...
he's not fighting it anymore. He's just doing what he's doing his best.
Yeah, he's doing his best, and he's, like, managing to be a leader... because Matt's kind of a fucking sketchhead right now.
Which is amazing, because, I mean, Matt has a really strong personality.
Mm-hmm.
So Rand being able to sort of take charge is kind of impressive, but Matt is just, like, so stuck in his head right now, and Rand is just trying to keep him from, like, losing his shit. I am worried about Matt. Mm-hmm. Also, there was this part that I almost forgot about. Where is it? This bit where he's like, they're getting chased off by a farmer, and
Matt tries to shoot him.
Yes! That's fucking so scary.
And Rand's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
That he is that deeply suspicious and that, like, tense is really disturbing and dangerous because he's taught us a fucking bowstring right now. He's gonna snap, like, at something. Something is gonna push him over the edge and he's going to act out in a dangerous and reckless way, probably, where he's gonna do something that he either comes to regret or that Rand and him both come to regret or something else. So it's just like, he's going to end up being pushed to do something impulsive, very likely. And that's dangerous because they're in a very precarious sort of spot.
Well, you should read Four Kings in Shadow because it's one of the best chapters in the book.
I am going to.
All right.
I'm hoping to read all the way to Kingland.
Well, I'll stop this right here. This final section is actually just more about Play for Your Supper. Abby had more to say, and in perfect fashion, there is more comedy gold. Please enjoy.
But at the very beginning of the chapter, they're talking about walking up the road and watching the dust trail or whatever and to judge, where the riders are at. Also, Rand sounds sharp as fuck right at the beginning of this chapter with like I know he has wood experience, like hunting and tracking and stuff like that, but just reading about him using the dust to like track the people around them and stuff is maybe sort of obvious, but it's just like put in a very intelligent sort of way. I don't know. It seemed impressive to me. In any case, there's this bit. Okay, right here. It says, for a long time after leaving Whitebridge, Rand would suddenly find himself staring back down the road behind them. Sometimes he would see someone who made his breath catch, a tall, skinny man hurrying up the road, or a lanky, white-haired fellow up beside the driver on a wagon. But it was always a pack peddler or farmers making their way to market, never Tom Marilyn. Hope faded as the days passed. That makes me wonder a little bit, especially the tall, skinny man hurrying up the road. Makes me wonder if, like, Podden Fane is following them. They never said who that was. There was, like, a questionable person, like, a few chapters back, and I wondered if they were Podden Fane. Pen Fane, however you say it.
I say Pen. In Whitebridge?
Yes?
The Bardem, the dude in Whitebridge, is saying that there's a crazy guy, and then the murderer is also looking for the...
Yes, that guy. I wondered if that was Podden Fane. I wonder if the tall, skinny guy is Podden Fane, because he was just sort of, like, rabbity and sketchy when they ran into him and Barlon. Pronounce any?
I'd say Barlon.
Yeah. And if Tom Marilyn is still among the living, he doesn't have his Gleeman's cloak, and he would just look like any other old man, basically. And he could disguise himself quite well, or easily as just about anybody. It's like all he'd have to do is, like, change his fucking facial hair, and he would just, and change his, like, cloak or clothing, and would look like anybody else, basically. So, he may very well have been murdered, but, like, if he is still alive, then it would not be hard for him to sort of melt into the background or disappear. Especially because people think he's dead. That's the best disguise ever, is, like, if you're still alive when people think that you're dead. So, yeah, I'm not sure. I can't say what I think 100% about him being dead or alive, I guess, but I have, like, a strong feeling that he is not dead. Yeah. In any case.
Okay.
That's what I kind of meant, I guess, about, like, the small detail that might end up having significance. It's sort of like these details about a person of slightly similar description being mentioned over and over again, or I guess just a couple times at this point, but it's sort of like that seems a little bit suspect, and I suppose it could be somebody else, but I think that there is somebody consistently sort of potentially following these two, and I would put my money on him because Pot and Fane, not Tom Maryland. I would put my money on him just because he was sort of odd and shady from the beginning, but also he ended up kind of melting into the background after the drama of Winter Night. And as far as like old men that are sort of like familiar sort of strangers to the town, he took second place to Tom Maryland. So it's easy to just forget about him until you run into him in Farallon, and then you're like, oh fuck, you still exist. So I almost wonder if it's a mistake to keep acting as if he doesn't exist after Farallon. I don't know. I have no idea what his purpose would be if that really is him. I could be completely off base, but if he is for some reason following them, I can't think why. He could be a dark friend or something like that. Especially because, like, at the beginning there was the whole, like, question about the fucking, like, fang on the door of the, what the fuck is that inn called?
The Wine Spring?
Yeah. Like the little dragon's fang. Whatever that was drawn on the door. So, yeah. I don't know. Anyway. I feel like there's a lot, like, the devil's in the details, and that there's a bunch of small details that are going to come back to, like, haunt later books, or later bits of this book.
Well, I will tell you that Jordan is a master of foreshadowing, and your point about the bow and how much is described about Matt and what's going on with him by the single action of him turning to shoot at the farmer.
Oh yeah, that's bad.
It's like, no, you're right. Like, he does that a lot, where he'll just do like a single action, or, you know, a single description of something where it's just kind of like, it says so much in that.
But like
small
everybody
thing.
in the scene fucking brushes over it like it didn't happen. Because Rand, like, I mean, he says something, but like he never touches on it again in this chapter, and it's just like, if my friend suddenly was about to kill an innocent person just for turning them away, being afraid, being as wary and suspicious as he is, it's sort of like, I would be alarmed by their behavior and start to feel mistrustful of them, but Rand's just like, it's just Matt. And, you know, maybe it's just paranoid Matt, which is true, but also, like, he's just not really acknowledging how dangerous an incredibly fearful person is. Somebody who is afraid, like, as afraid as a cornered fucking animal, they lash out and do stupid shit and dangerous shit, and it's sort of like, there's no guarantee that, like, you won't get in the way, and it's just kind of like, I don't know. Yeah, that was a small thing, but the fact that Rand kind of is just like, are you crazy? And that's literally the last mention of it in the chapter, is like, what the fuck? Because that's a lot.
Everything.
I just keep forgetting that I didn't, like, I just keep forgetting things that I had meant to bring up and forgot to.
Well, everything you have to say is worthy and interesting.
Everybody's in such a different spot right now. Like, I feel like Nynaeve and Lon and Warren are the safest, which is interesting. Nynaeve is officially the most annoying person to me at this particular point in time. Rand and Matt have gotten so tolerable that they're actually interesting right now. They're in a dangerous but sort of like, it feels like they're waiting, sort of, you know? Like, it feels like a tense, we're waiting for something else significant to happen, which sounds like it's about to happen in Four Kings. And then Perrin and Egwene are just in a perpetual fucking hell, and it's like, that's terrible, especially because I feel like, what the fuck did they do to deserve this bullshit? Like, yeah. And they're also tragically close to each other. It's really kind of depressing. It feels a little bit like the, like, Romeo and Juliet moment, where, like, fucking one wakes up after the other has already poisoned themselves, and it's just like, it's too late and it's over. It's just like they're so tragically close, but all still separate. And now fucking Perrin doesn't have his coin on him anymore either. So, I guess I don't 100% know how that went. So the Elder Bornald was like, give them back their shit. Not their weapons, of course, but give them back their shit. Did he give him back the sketchy Aes Sedai coin, too? He made particular mention of it, which makes me think that he absolutely mistrusts it. Why would he let them have an Aes Sedai object? I feel like if I were Bornald, I would just drop it in the dirt and leave it there and move on.
I mean, it's just money.
I suppose, except that it has the mark on it. He said that it has a mark on it. That marks it specifically as an Aes Sedai coin or token, or maybe it's currency particularly, it's made
money,
in Tar Valon.
It's money minted in Tar Valon.
Okay. So
taking it...
He has no idea of the power of it. Otherwise, he would have freaked out, I think.
Yeah, that's why he said something about, have we stooped to looting the unenlightened? Because it's a silver mark, so it's a significant amount of money, so it would be like stealing parents' money.
Yeah.
It's money minted in Tar Valon, and most people get rid of it if they're gonna be, far outside, or they're not, merchants or stuff like that, but it's still, you can't steal his money.
Yeah, I feel like if you're a merchant, it wouldn't be sketchy to have money from literally anywhere.
No.
But a farm boy with a fancy axe and a coin from Tar Valon with stories from a fucking warder, you are in a dangerous and very odd place,
Yeah.
I hope all of the fucking children of the light burn in hell. I fucking hate them. I fucking hate them. I wish all of them had been eaten by wolves.
Should feed them to the squid.
The non-existent squid. Yes.
Well, you were going to feed both Matt and Tom to the squid.
No. Matt and Ran. Tom is fine.
No, you specifically... I have you on recording specifically mentioning feeding Tom to the squid.
Did I?
Yeah.
Why would I feed Tom to the squid?
Because at that point
he's sketchy?
You thought he was super sketchy still.
He's still sketchy. I don't even know if he's dead or alive. Nobody actually watched him fucking die. He just screamed in a questionable way.
He's like...
I'm literally not going to trust that he is dead until I see his rotting fucking corpse.
He'd be like, hold my beer, Myrtle. Ah! Ah!
Is it just as a scream? Is it a scream like, die, bitch? Or is it like a, I'm dying, bitch? I don't know. And it's just I'm just mistrustful. Game of Thrones did this to me. I trust absolutely nothing. Everything is suspect. Everyone is potentially an enemy. Or dangerous. I feel like Cersei Lannister.
Oh, no.
Simple as of a bitch.
I mean...
Yeah. All of the children in the light should be eaten by a giant squid.
Okay.
I want them to all be chewed feet first by a giant squid beak.
Feet first?
Feet first. Especially fucking Byron.
Fucking Byron.
Fucking asshole. Byron. I called him Byron.
Okay.
He's the biggest douchebag we've met so far.
Yes. Yes, he is.
We've met some fucking douchebags, but he could out douchebag the fucking Myrtle and he doesn't even have eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. He is a colossal douche canoe.
And the worst part is that he's a dumb douche canoe, which is a terrible combination of being both stupid and an absolutely fucking intolerable asshole. The fact that your heart even beats is a fucking...
tragedy.
Yes! God. The size of that guy's ego is just fucking oppressively large. And I fucking hate him. I hope something awful happens to him. Probably he'll end up being the fucking king of the world or some dumb shit, because that's how things seem to work out. But,
yeah, things are going so shitty for Perrin that by book 14, Byron's gonna be the king of the world.
Yeah, and Perrin will just be his footstool.
On a giant wolf carpet from all of the wolves.
R.I.P. Hopper.
R.I.P.
That was so fucked up. Poor fucking one-eyed Hopper.
Poor Hopper.
But yeah. I just got this horrible picture of fucking Byron and his fucking sallow, sunken-eyed shit sitting on some horrible throne while Perrin kneels on hands and knees on a carpet of wolf wolf bones. Fire's feet just fucking right on his back.
I don't think the Wheel of Time is ever quite that tragic.
Or that kinky, hopefully not.
God.
Not that tragic, huh? Okay. Well, that gives me a little bit of hope. Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna keep reading.
Yep.
As soon as I sort of heard the name Arthur, I was like thinking like Arthur, of course, and I was like, I wonder if this is like King Arthur. It's totally like King Arthur. I think that's what he's supposed to be based off of. Arthur Hawkwing. He's supposed to be like King Arthur.
Sort of, yeah. Maybe.
Or like maybe that's where the sort of name or idea comes from.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, all that shit's all mixed together.
Yeah. Also, it's kind of like interesting that Elias knows so much about it. Like, why does he know so much about everything? Like, I know he's traveled far and wide, but like, motherfucker, you're incredibly secretive and sketchy. Like,
Somebody's got a past.
yeah, I hate all the people that have pasts because it's sort of like they're all fucking really tight-lipped about it, and it's like, I feel like a lot of problems could probably be avoided in the future if everybody was just fucking straight with each other.
Okay, so one of the jokes in the fandom is that if the Wheel of Time of people communicated would be like 2 books long.
Yeah, and probably be slightly less fucking tragic.
Because
Because if everybody was like, sharing is caring, then we could probably get everybody together and fucking they could tell all their fancy stories and be like, oh, you know what? All this shit that's happening, this makes a lot more fucking sense. Let's see what we can do about it. Let's make sensible decisions based on all this information that we have. And instead everybody's like, let's scramble blindly in the dark because we're not going to talk to each other at all.
Yeah, that sounds pretty realistic.
I fucking hate it. I fucking hate it. I'm gonna be secretive and sketchy and very questionable for literally no reason at all. I don't want to bring up past traumas. Shut the fuck up. Get over yourself. Go see a therapist. Talk about it. You'll feel better, I promise. Tell a stupid farm boy. They won't know what you're talking about anyway.
Okay.
I hate it. The lack of communication is fucking killing me. It's killing me. It's killing me. Maureen's got fucking ulterior motives that Londa probably knows all about. Fucking Tom Maryland is whatever the fuck he is. Elias has tons of shit going on in his fucking life, and literally not a single fucking person except his weird-ass wolves probably know about that, and the traveling people maybe know like a teeny bit. And everybody else is like, fucked. That's basically like the summation of what's going on. Yep. This book stresses me out. I really had trouble reading Children of the Shadow. Like, I kept having to stop because it was stressing me out.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, it's fucking stressful. And I felt sad because I was, like, thinking they would get a brief little respite after their terrifying mad dash from murdery ravens. Like, yeah. And instead of a lovely, like, congratulations, you made it, have a nice sleep and a hot meal, sort of like, no, you're gonna be prisoners.
Like, doesn't George R. R. Martin do horrible things to his characters?
Yeah? Yeah, like a lot, but I don't know, for some reason I feel like they're getting completely hammered. Like, I think that partly it doesn't seem as bad because of his approach.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this is, like, really on the ground, in their heads. There's, like, almost a little bit more distance with the characters from A Song of Ice and Fire.
And this is incredibly empathetic, like...
Yeah, and it's sort of like, I mean, there's a lot of tragedy in A Song of Ice and Fire. Fuckloads of tragedy. But, I don't know. There is definitely a degree of separation from the characters. Even the characters, like, when you're reading from their point of view, it's not quite so empathetic as this is. It's just, like, things are happening and there are plenty of traumatized people, but it almost seems like the people have a level of, like, determination that sort of puts them above their trauma for the most part, where they have the strength to keep going, or at least the main characters, the ones that don't die, where they just press on because they have literally no other option. And it, I guess, in the context of the Game of Thrones books, it kind of it seems like it makes sense because it's like, unless you are actively suicidal, what choice do you have but to continue and accept your circumstances for what they are and just try? And that's what most people seem to do, is to just try. I don't know. It seems kind of odd because it's like there is an extreme amount of realism in the Song of Ice and Fire, but there's also that sort of degree of separation, and I don't know how those are, like, I can't say exactly how those things are, like, reconciled in the books. I don't know how it can feel so real and so human and so distant at the same time, because you really can feel the, like, plot-driven part of it. I feel like, yeah, I don't know. It's just got a really different sort of flavor.
Yeah.
And this, to me, feels a little bit more like a classic fantasy, where, despite bad things happening to perfectly okay people and tragic things happening to them, it's not quite as blunt and cruel a world as the world that George R.R. Martin made. His world is absolutely fucking merciless, and it just kind of feels real because of that. Because real life is not particularly merciful. It doesn't forgive stupidity, and it doesn't forgive a lot of mistakes. And there are people that make, small mistakes or even big mistakes, but it's because they're fucking hella young or inexperienced, or because they're just people and they pay dearly for those mistakes. And, that sort of thing just makes it feel kind of real, because sometimes bad things happen to good people for absolutely no reason at all. And a lot of older sort of fantasy novels, or more classics, like fantasy novels, if you're, like, bad things happen, but if you're honorable and good and gentle and kind or whatever, in the end you will eventually get a happy ending. But that's not how it goes in more realistic fiction. Like, you might be kind and gentle, but in the real world, kind and gentle people get fucking walked on. Kind and gentle people get fucking used. Stupid people are taken advantage of, and it's just like, that's how it goes. It's absolutely unforgiving. And there's, like, a touch of that in this. And I mean, honestly, I guess it's probably more than a touch. But if you're comparing the two, like, A Song of Ice and Fire is definitely more brutal than this. The Wheel of Time is not nearly so brutal or merciless.
Yeah, that's why I always tell people the flavor is kind of like if A Song of Ice and Fire and Harry Potter had a baby, as far as just kind of like the gruesomeness, the horror, the like.
Yeah, I feel like that's pretty accurate to say, because, like, Harry Potter is pretty mild.
But it's also real fucking dark.
But if you think hard enough about it, yeah, there is a good deal of darkness in that series that you might not pick up on as a, like, child reader, that you would pick up on as an adult reader. So yeah. Anyway, for the millionth time, I'm gonna keep reading.
I hope you've enjoyed this bonus episode of Podcast of the Dragon. I was really happy to be able to get out another Pillow Talk with Pillow Friends. I'm hoping to actually have this launched within the next few hours, because I've got work to do. The trailer is officially dropping within the next 12 hours or so, and I'm excited, I know you are, and so I've got to make some more content for YouTube. Please, if you would like to check out my YouTube channel, there's a link in the show notes. I'm enjoying making videos. I think I'm getting better at it. And I am also working to make another full episode about the Shadow Rising that I hope to have out before the show drops on November 19th. So, got my outline going for that. I'm working real hard to try to make as much content as I can without making myself insane. So, we'll see how I do there. You can find me on Twitter at podofthedragon. I've got all my other links down there in the show notes as well. If you would like to support me on Patreon, there's access to more Pillow Talk with Pillow Friends there, both in smaller snippets and longer episodes, depending on what level of support you'd like. I would also very much appreciated if you could go and rate and review me on Apple Music. Also, if you have a friend who likes The Wheel of Time and would like a different kind of podcast, word of mouth really helps too. Anyway, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this bonus episode. You all take it easy.